Any public input? I think I would like this to say for the public is, I would to thank Steve Niles for his 3 years.
Did you ask me? No. It
This
is.
is it.
It is.
My last
Yeah.
regularly scheduled, we'll see if we go into extra innings, overtime, extended period, but
Anyway, thank you, Dr. Niles, for your
you're welcome.
3 3/4 years or quarter of a year, whatever it is. With appreciation from the board
Thank you.
and all
True.
that you've accomplished.
Thank you.
And good luck in your future endeavors.
I appreciate it, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, approval of the minutes of October 7th. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Do we hear a second?
Yep.
Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The manifest are going around. Treasurer's report, I guess we're not gonna have tonight, Tom, I think that's what you said. And so the fiscal year 2018 audit,
The printed version of the audit report is before you. There will be an electronic version available online soon. for the public to review. You did receive a copy of the governor's letter previously, and I believe that's also on the drive if you hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
Just, nothing really shaky. Some of the words are I take personally. A little harsh sometimes, but we still have some things we need to do to get things clean.
okay,
Just continue to work on them. The fiscal 19 audit work will be Veterans Day week. So we'll be doing field work that week. And the firm has committed to helping us achieve schedule. So we were quite late this year and didn't make the deadlines for the federal clearinghouse and had all kinds of people upset with me. So the audit firm and I have made a commitment to get the schedule on schedule.
okay,
That's what we expect to do.
great. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is new business. MS 25 discussion, a follow-up to the school town budget committee meeting. I talked with Andrew earlier this afternoon. And I believe that Karen also called Tom. So, is what I can understand with the MS1, the consultant statute, was not to have any discrimination of the property tax between local, school, county, and town. And they were up for quite a while, and I think they met on the DRA website, so Tom, can you give us a little further explanation?
Apparently, there's still some discussion as to how to account for the value related to the dam when they entered into an agreement for payment in lieu of taxes. The Department of Revenue suggested at that point that the value presently associated with the dam would come out of the town's inventory. And the revenue generated from the pilot of $4,059,000 would be a revenue line item for the town, which means everyone else involved, the county rate and the school rate and everything else would go up that much higher because it's the same number of dollars divided by a smaller tax base. Apparently, the consultant working with the town has come up with a better way, and they were talking about an imputed value, which they kind of add back to the tax base before calculating the rate. I'm not sure that's all been revised at this point. What I had last week and what I still have now, with the extra revenue from the state budget that has been approved and signed off on, all the changes that were accomplished in that. Our revised revenue, because we work on this stuff last January and then resubmit in September, I'm looking to raise $112,000 less in taxes this year than we did last year. What happens to the rate, I can't say at this point, but the actual dollars that we're raising is less. Dollars are less.
So new business.
So that's taking the increase in the appropriation plus the negotiated agreement increase.
And offsetting that
Yeah,
completely.
and then offsetting, so there's some increases there, but that, again, that's offset by increased revenue, of course, due to budget reconciliation.
Now, the suggestions that the consultant is making, were those basically the same things that were stated at that Board of Selectmen meeting?
I believe so.
Okay.
Has there been any discussion of having another get-together, school-town budget committee?
I haven't heard yet.
Haven't heard that hasn't happened.
No.
That's gonna happen soon if we're gonna do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or next
Maybe
Friday.
next week, yeah,
or
this week.
Anyway, so at this point in time, our retained fund balance, we decided to retain the $200,000.
Yes.
And provide $134,516 to reduce the taxes.
Yes.
So I guess my
That's in
recommendation,
my numbers.
to leave that just as it is for now.
135, what was that figure again?
134,516.
Okay. That's what we're, okay.
Yeah.
We're retaining the 200.
Without
Okay.
going any further back at this time. So, is that your recommendation?
That is my recommendation, since again, we have reduced, not that we're actually raising.
Yeah.
At some point, you push it down more and we start in the hole next year.
Yeah.
You have to raise more to get to zero.
Right. In agreement with that.
So do you need any kind of further,
You made the vote previously.
okay. We'll just leave it as it stands then. So any further discussion on that from anybody? Kelly Nolan.
Okay, pretty short report, as you noticed. Enrollment's up a little bit from where we were in August. We're at 142 and counting. We're still working on trying to fill the para positions.
Sorry.
We're hopeful to have at least one nomination coming forward at the next board meeting.
So you still have 2 pairs
Yes,
you're looking for?
Yeah.
And where are they gonna be placed?
both of these will be at Lakeway.
At Lakewood?
So, we had 2 resignations that we're trying to cover. So,
Okay.
and then I think Patty had also forwarded you the special education trend report from the NESDAQ.
Yeah, we have copies.
Yeah, so I don't know if you had any questions, but that's my report.
Pretty good, thank you.
Okay, the next one then is Jennifer.
Our golf team are the state
Yeah.
champions first. We'll be celebrating them Thursday night at 6:30. Crusader Pride will be doing the pizza and the cake just as they've done in the past for other returning teams. Because the match was canceled, it didn't happen the same way we're used to having it happen, so Thursday night. If there's information on on Above the Notch, our grants, and some updates regarding free and reduced lunch. We're almost done with the semester for Above the Notch. But I wanted to, because Al's not here and I know Rochelle asked me to, the Department of Ed has recommended, as we explore nighttime opportunities, adult learning opportunities, regarding plumbing and electrical, to conduct a survey of the area to see what the interest level is. We know that it's there for the employers, but the DOE's requested that we conduct that community survey. So I think what Al and Rochelle would like is just go ahead and okay from the board to conduct a survey to see what the interest is in participating in, or the need for plumbing and electrical programming in our evening program.
Yeah, they used to do that years ago.
They did.
And trying to get a plumber or electrician around here is pretty sparse.
Yeah.
They're all so busy.
And the DOE's requesting this
Right,
of
that's
them,
good.
so
So would it just be an informal survey?
It would-
They just kind of call and,
we're gonna have to develop that. I just wanna make sure that we kind of get that insight and you're aware of it and it's okay to go ahead and do some of those calls.
Yep.
Okay. Crusader Pride purchased a Crusader mascot for our use. It's pretty exciting. At some point, they will be looking at donating it to us, so we'll have conversations about that when that comes about. Right now, they own that mascot. Homecoming went pretty well. There's some concerns that we're addressing, safety concerns and cleaning up concerns, but everything seemed to go very well. There were no issues surrounding homecoming this year. Melanie's probably gonna talk about PSATs, so I'll skip that part. Our NEASC decennial visit is around the corner. You've got invitations for the gallery walk and the meeting with the NEASC visiting group for November 3rd, 15 to 5 is a gallery walk. I've invited the community to that as well. And from 5 to 6, a board meeting with the district leadership, school board, and the NEASC team. Our wellness committee met on the 11th of October, generated some good ideas. We've already implemented some of the thoughts. We're really focusing this year on physical, nutritional, and mental health, looking at promotional material and how can we be strategic about the information we put out there in our schools. And there's more in my report, but
yeah.
want to let you know that on Wednesday, we're going to be recognizing Unity Day. It's a national opportunity to really highlight the importance of kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. Greg and I met with the middle schoolers today, and we really did some of that highlighting and encouragement because they're doing well. Bye Bye Birdies around the corner, November 7th, 8th, and 9th, with a matinee on Sunday. And November 19th, we're doing the Screenagers, the Next Chapter community viewing in the evening. It's really focusing on high stress, anxiety, and depression among the youth. Well, not just the youth, but adults as well. And the use of the technology. So I'm hopeful that's a well-attended event. We'll do work with the students during the week as well.
Is that gonna be at the high school?
It's gonna be at the high
The last
school.
one was-
Yeah, the last one was very well attended. It
Yeah.
was in the cafeteria. I'm hoping this is better attended and maybe it ends up in the gym, but we'll see.
Okay.
And Veterans Day, Al and I are working on November 8th at 1:30. Invitations will go out this week. I don't have them tonight. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Excuse me, but I noticed that Mr. Dorset just came in. I think you said you didn't have much time to spare, so we'll go backwards, if you'd like, about the MS discussions.
Yes, so, what we were able to do is work with, our contractor to help us come up with, some valuation for the, pilot agreement. And the, pilot amount is set, but what happens is the, actual valuation of the dam becomes imputed based on the formulation that's a backwards, calculation from the tax rate. And so there's actually an inverse correlation between the tax rate and the imputed value of the dam. So the value of the dam will be a moving target year by year based on what the tax rate is. And it's constantly sliding, because once you calculate your estimated tax rate, that then changes the value of the dam. So, what we did is we went back and forth and almost like created like, a format where we got closer and closer to a value of the dam. And the reason it's like this, because on the MS1, the way we did the MS1 is actually correct. So the amount of the value is recorded specifically on the line that says New Hampshire RSA 72, 74, or whatever it is, pilot, utilities pilot arrangement. The DRA then uses that, and under that RSA, it says something about how the school and town tax rates they're not going to be negatively impacted by set aside from a pilot. So they have some formula that they use behind the scenes that then creates their own imputed value, which then creates the tax rate. And, and they won't share that. So that's why we have to create basically just an estimate. The tax rate itself should come out somewhere, our best guesstimation is that will come out somewhere near this. And I don't know if you want me to just kind of go over what we believe the projection was going to be based off of the warrant articles and budget. We initially looked at, after the 2019 town meeting, to look at the 2019 tax rate. We had assumed that the town tax rate would go up 40 cents. The school tax rate would go up 38 cents. The state school would be at a negative 12 cents. And the county tax would be at 25 cents. It should be a 91 cent. After we did the imputed value calculations based on our assumptions, we also built in some other assumptions that I had not cleared with my board, but that would be to use $100,000 of our fund balance to offset the tax rate. We're looking at our overlay. That's where we settle our usually our utility abatement requests. We have quite a few out there. So I have $200,000 in there. And then we set the school at retaining $200,000 of surplus, which I don't know if that's right.
Yeah, that's correct.
So what we come up with those assumptions and our imputed dam value is that a 37-cent increase for the town, a 37-cent increase for the school, and the state school remains the same, negative 12, because they don't pay the utility tax through the town anyways. And then we have a county tax increase of 21 cents. It's an estimated increase of 83 cents, which is right in range with where we thought it was. So with the combined tax rate being new tax rate 23.93. And so we're not even in the, I don't even know where we're at in the queue right now with the Department of Revenue for setting our tax rate. It may still be 2-3 weeks out.
Yeah.
But once they do, we have this to at least check it against. So.
Are we planning to have another meeting between the folks that were there last week?
You mean with our school town?
Yeah,
Yes, so I think that we were gonna have that set up here soon. I asked Robin to reach out and try to figure out when people were available.
okay. All right. So that should probably be what, next week, are we thinking?
I would think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I don't know if you have any questions about that convoluted answer.
Anybody have any questions?
Sure.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Paul Revere right now. How it goes.
Okay, so Jennifer is done, Mr. Pryor, you've got your report.
Got it. Facilities meeting next Friday, the 1st. Custodians completed the fall cleanup. Lakeway looks like it could be fall cleaned up again with the leaves out front. Eric's skylight window was more like a waterfall last week, but has since been repaired, and we'll see if the repairs worked at the next storm. My report is incorrect. There was supposed to be a second vendor that came on last Thursday at 3 o'clock to Lakeway to measure the carpets upstairs to get us a quote. And they were no show, and they have not returned a phone call at this point to set up another follow-up. Still don't have the quote for the doors on School Street. Expecting it this week, according to Chris. There was a slight sewer backup at the high school last Wednesday in the locker room area. Thank you to Schofields for coming within 30 minutes of a phone call to take care of it. No idea what caused the backup, what was pushed down the toilets or whatever, but it was, the drama club can attest to how well it smelled. All the inspections are completed, technology-wise, just to kind of keep hitting on the point of the Promethean boards. We have a Promethean projector that failed second week of school. I was informed by 2 different vendors who've been working for almost a full month at finding a replacement that they cannot get us one. So we're gonna have to move one from a conference room. But it's an ongoing situation just to keep you informed. And then what's not in my report, I believe Patty shared with you late this afternoon. That is just the phase 1 assessment of the rock walls and the recommendation of the engineering company. I can answer any questions on that, but the next phase, they will take about a month to do all of the sampling, and then that they would create the engineering design and hopefully have it for us as expected in early January.
Okay. So with the quote from the carpets, we still have time because that's supposedly in next year's budget?
Correct,
Okay. So we still have a time to reach out to.
to attempt, yes.
Okay. Eric, I guess you're giving the next one.
All right, so with enrollment, we're down 1 student from last month. School goals have been same for the school year, they've been there. For staff development, we did STAR 360 trainings on October 11th. This is opportunity for the teachers to go through all the data that they've gathered in the first round of assessments, and the data's been very user-friendly for the teachers, and that went very well. Their last staff development, or staff meeting, all the teachers completed social emotional screeners for all of their students. We're going to use this information with the help of Corey Nicole, the school psychologist, to determine the effectiveness of our social emotional learning programs at Lakeway. Our next staff meeting is going to be devoted to the computer science standards and their strategies the teachers are currently using as we continue to need to roll out those standards. Personnel, we do have the 2 para positions that Kelly mentioned, and we have an ESOL teacher position. Community events, we celebrated Fire Prevention Week last week. It went very well. Thank the fire department for all their help. I'd like to congratulate the poster winners: Madison Hobbs, Sawyer McKay, Ashton Thompson, Dagan Damare, Haley Bates, Leah Tellier, and Margaret Brown. Last Friday, we competed with the high school on Pink Out Day to raise funds for families. It was a heated competition to see who would raise more money, but Lakeway won easily, so no big deal there. Next week, we're participating in Red Ribbon Week, which is a drug and violence prevention awareness week. And each day, students dress in different themes to represent positive choices. So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe next year.
Thank you, Veterans Day.
Totally related.
So, are you all set with the CTC report, Jen?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Okay,
I haven't intended on reporting out.
okay, I can read it anyway. So, other than that, curriculum report, Melanie?
So, district-wide, all students in grades 1 through 11 for this round took the STAR 360 Fall Universal Screener in both math and reading. Kindergarten will take it either beginning in the winter screener or in the spring screener. In the fall screener, they're just not quite ready for that early literacy one. And then grade level and content area teams and teachers are using the various reports, and there's lots of reports, to analyze the data and plan instruction and interventions, and then start to plan progress monitoring for students. At the middle school and high school, content vertical teams have been finding that extra time provided by the 2-hour monthly meetings very valuable. And it's nice that we can kind of get through the business at hand and then have a pretty substantial amount of time to work on curriculum work, assessment, that kind of thing. Whereas before, with just the 1-hour meeting, we just get into that and then the meeting would be over. And so we kind of have to start back over from the beginning again next month. So the extra time has been great. And let's see. Teachers have been working hard to collaborate on their presentations for the NEAS Gallery Walk that Jen mentioned. That's happening on the Sunday of the NEAS visit. Each display will showcase our use of CBE, UDL, and SEL in the content area, paying special attention to student work, engagement, and student agency. And it's just been neat to see the excitement the teachers have had creating these displays and showcasing their departments and the hard work by them and by their students.
And it's not like just for the gallery walk, because I see that as an opportunity to showcase during open houses or orientations or deliberative sessions, but to have that information there for the community is important too.
Great. And then, as Jen had briefly mentioned, students in grades 9, 10, and 11 took the PSAT, well, grades 10 and 11 took the PSAT, and grade 9 took the PSAT 9. And this is the first year that our freshmen and sophomores have participated in this assessment. And then when we receive the data, I think it's usually December that we receive the data back from those assessments. It will be used to provide targeted SAT practice in task time and also in regular classroom time as well. So Lakeway, grade level teams continue to meet weekly with a curriculum and student performance focus. And we're really striving to provide a similar experience in each grade level classroom. So whether a student has, say, Mrs. Jetty for 3rd grade or Mrs. Pilgrim for 3rd grade, that 3rd grade student is going to be receiving that same 3rd grade experience. And our interventionist team, it also meets weekly to discuss the needs of students. And they have developed new this year a request for intervention form that teachers can use to request targeted Tier 3 interventions from the team. And with that form, teachers have to talk about interventions that they've already tried to provide for students in the classroom. And so that the interventionist team knows what's been done already and what the desired outcome is of the requested intervention. And then lastly, Lakeway's vertical team this year is focusing on our K-6 science curriculum. And this work is being guided by the work we've done at the 7 through 12 level. And so now we're kind of like working backwards down through the lower grades, trying to create that K-12 alignment. And it's also based on the next generation science standards as well as New Hampshire's new science competencies. And then, let's see, professional development, as Eric mentioned, our teachers participated in the STAR 360, two STAR 360 90-minute trainings. The first was on understanding the reports and the data provided by those reports, and the second was on instructional planning and progress monitoring. And then lastly, 7 members of our 2 UDL teams participated in the fall workshop provided by CAST down in Concord. And each team this year will be focusing on school-wide UDL implementation. So we have a Crusader UDL team and a Lakeway UDL team. So those teams will become the UDL leadership teams for the school, planning and designing our approach for UDL implementation this year and moving forward.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? All right. Thank you, Bill. Personnel? Nope, no meeting. Facilities coming up. The only policy we have tonight for second read and adoption is policy JLF, which is reporting child abuse or neglect. And that was on the drive last 2 weeks ago, and I think it's on tonight. So, do I hear a motion for the adoption of that policy?
Motion to accept policy JLF for second reading and adoption.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Superintendent's report.
Okay, the last one. Yeah, it's hard to believe it was just a few years ago, July of 2016. I remember my first board meeting over in the music room. Actually, I don't remember the first board meeting. I just remembered it was there. I don't remember much about the board meeting except one thing. I remember pulling up there alongside the school and getting out of my pickup, my brand new black Silverado. And Millie was there, and Millie said, "Oh, is that what you're driving?" I said, "Yeah." How do you like it? She said, "You're going to fit in real well."
That's right.
So,
I did say that, you're right.
you did. I remember that really, really
I did
well.
say that, yeah.
So, yeah, quick 3+ years. And, I without bragging too much, it is a record for superintendent in 84. In 84 is very short existence, by the way. To be fair, it's only been around for a while, so, it's hard to, it's easier to set a record than, in the shorter time period. But be that as it may, I do take some satisfaction in that 3 years went quick and quite a bit got done. A lot of people to thank, starting with the board that hired me. 3 of the 5 that hired me are here tonight. And that in itself also, says something, because there's sometimes boards turn over quite a bit. So I appreciate that. As I said before, there's this crazy Kansan living on the Caribbean. You had to wonder about, wow, how's he going to adapt to winter and all that stuff? But you, thank God, you realize that was Kansas tough. I grew up in not quite these kind of winters, but a few winters. But yeah, it was kind of an interesting combo. And I think what's interesting is since that time coming here, this girl from deep in South America and this guy from Kansas has found a home in the North Country. And I think that's pretty cool. Falling in love with the North Country and the town of Littleton and the community. And I think we're very fortunate to be able to stay here. Hopefully for a long time yet. You never know these things, but not only that, I thought enough of this town, I guess, and the school system to bring my grandchildren here, my daughter and son-in-law, and so that in itself, I'm also very grateful for the education they're getting, the education that my daughter Sophie got for 3 years here, how well she was treated, and by the community as a whole, by the teachers. by her fellow students. I thought her experience was amazing. I'm grateful, and as is her mom, very, very grateful for that. And I know, like I said, I know that my grandchildren are in good hands. So there's lots that I could talk about, but I won't go on and on too much longer, but just a little bit, since I don't get to do this again. As I said, I thank the board for giving me the opportunity. You know, almost any place you go, people talk about how good the teachers are, and I think that's because there's a lot of good teachers in all the schools, public and private, and everything in between across the country and other places around the world. But you know, people go into education and go into teaching and really make a career out of it. They're special lot, and I really have to take my hat off to the professionals that we have working here in their classrooms every day, our teachers, our paraeducators, and then all the other people that work in this district, custodians, support staff, administrative support staff, our bus driver, Miranda, as well as those we contract out with in food service. We have so many people that in one way or another, you know, do a service to the community, to our kids, and I think that's really good. And I really appreciate what they bring, the kindness they've extended to me, the patience they've extended to me, and understanding and support. And then of course my administrative team, and I think that I've said it before and I'll say it again, that's the most difficult part of my decision, was leaving them behind. I've worked with a half a dozen or more schools now, I guess, in my career in one way or another, and you know, with a lot of different administrators, some of whom I hired, some of whom I didn't hire. And this is the same case. I hired some of these administrators. I was lucky enough to have some of these current administrators here when I got here, but they're the finest group I've ever worked with. And I'm not just saying that as a platitude. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I think if you look back at the history of what we've done in the last 3 years, the budget cuts we've made, the personnel decisions, the juggling personnel, moving people around, moving people in and out, and just trying to make the best of it what we could. Their unselfishness has been a key to that, because I've seen situations where it was every man for themselves. So, and then I think there's extended administrative team. They never quite know where counselors and nurses and all those other people and others, social workers, people I've probably forgotten to mention tonight, but as well, I thank and commend and really appreciate all they've done. I think that as you look back, you know, our budget's smaller than it was when I began here a few years ago, at least the general fund piece of it. We've endured some budget cuts, some of which we presented, by the way. I think one of the more interesting things of the 3 years is when we, you know, usually the school boards and administrators that go to the delivery session terrified of what's going to happen on the floor and how much money is going to be cut from the budget. Well, my first delivery session as superintendent, we took $600,000 of the floor, and they said, no, don't take that much, don't cut that much, cut $300,000 instead. And the next year we take nothing in cuts, and they end up cutting us 3. So I guess we still got the 6 over 2 years, go figure. But that was pretty interesting. But through it all, our budget is been pretty stable, and our tax rate, has been fairly stable for the most part. Our students still aren't performing where they should be. You know, I think that is the forefront. We have a very solid foundation, I think, established, grades 3, 4, 5. We were seeing, actually fairly good results as we get into the high school, in some up and down years, but by some of the measures that are out here, the high school's ranking and certainly numbers are improving. We just have to figure out how to, get sixth grade supported a little bit better and then translate that in a little bit better learning for seventh and eighth. But I go back to the work of our teachers and, they fully embraced the idea. I can't expect everyone to 100% fully embrace everything we do or try to do, but our teachers are giving a best run effort at what we're asking them to do with UDL, social and emotional learning, and competency-based education. And they're doing their very, very best. As Jeremy Brown said, teaching is hard. Our Teacher of the Year candidate, and I think he pretty succinctly summed that up, that doing it right and dealing with all the changes and demands that we have is a very, very difficult job. So looking ahead, I hope that something good happens with Lakeway eventually.
Well, you'll be a citizen, you can vote.
Yeah, continue to vote.
I mean, an unbiased one, so you're not.
Continue to vote, yeah. And Elena officially became a citizen as of last Friday,
Yeah,
so
that's
now
great.
there's another voter.
That's good. Whatever
So
it takes, Steve.
So that's good, yeah. But, I truly hope that at some point, something will have to happen, one way or another. And certainly hope that process moves forward. I worry about how we continue to do all that we're doing for the increasing needs of our student population, and still and somehow not forget those who for whatever reason don't need as much support in terms of the academic support. So they need extension, and they need advancement, and we need to keep the bar high. And Little in high school, I think you just look at the track record, has turned out a number of graduates who've done very well in career tech fields, in the professions, all over the world. And we want to make sure that our students are able to do that, and I think we've taken some measures to do that. The Scholars track program that we started in middle school this year, and some other things. So I think as we're working to personalize education for students and give every student what they need, again, I think that we have to keep in mind those students that are college and career bound, that are going to technical school, that do need those AP courses and do need those running start courses and do need to be challenged every step of the way. So that's a huge challenge. And finally, I think just as I was making my remarks, thanking. I think that one thing also is, and this kind of ties to the last thing I want to talk about, and that's the greater community. We don't always get every dollar we want for the budget. We didn't get a Lakeway vote last year, but I've said this over and over. This community supports education through and through, inside and out. Not always on the timeline we would like, or maybe exactly as we would like, but that's the process. But our internship program is alive and well thanks to people in this community, as is our community service. There's rarely, if ever, a time, and I've said this before, when a student group goes out into the community and asks for donations or support, goes right down there on Main Street, and those people are there always helping and giving and supporting. So I think that's a great thing about this community. I really something that I think is we take for granted. I think most communities have people that help, but I think Littleton probably has more of that than what's the norm. So yeah, with that I'll close, and the school district's in great hands with Corrine. I think that she'll do an excellent job for everybody, and she certainly has a tremendous amount of experience. And and what she's worked with in the last few years in Berlin is no no small task. Rising poverty, loss of student population, loss of valuation, raising the tax rate, all that kind of stuff will serve her well here. And she can bring some new perspectives and some new experiences, and certainly, I know she wants to build on what we've done already. So I wish her well in that, and I wish you well in the pursuit of the superintendent who will take over come July 1st as well. And with that, I thank everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Well said.
So with that,
How do you top that?
I guess we go into non-public.
Yeah.
Um, Do we need to take anybody besides Steve?
I need a little time with just the board, myself and Eric, I believe. And then, I'll let Tom excuse briefly for that piece, and then Tom can come back in for the rest of it that involves the nominations and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
And
I'll make-
I'd like to see Jen for 1 minute, and she can.
So I will make a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3 of the RSA 91A:3 of the right to know law for matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. And number 2, the hiring of any person as a public employee, taking with us initially the superintendent and the principal of the high school. and the-
Vice principal.
And the vice principal of Lakeway.
Just the vice principal.
Well, we're bringing in Jen for just a minute and then dismiss Jen.
Yeah, if you would just,
And,
you want to take a minute.
okay, and then, how do I add in Tom and,
Go out.
Yeah.
okay, and then asking Tom to step out for a few minutes, and Tom will be returning to non-public.
Boy, I'm confused. I'm just gonna sit here and hope everybody shows up.
And we're here.
Or second.
And wait,
Or second.
Go, second, not my turn.
Roll call vote.
Greg Cook,
No one knows.
Yeah, we got,
Kim Woodson.
thank you, folks.
this is now
Yeah,
paused. I'm actually gonna turn it off.
Yep.